They told us it was progress. They dressed it up in convenience, wrapped it in innovation, and sold it as evolution. But here's the uncomfortable question no one likes to ask. What if Britain didn't just lose traditions? What if it lost something it never learned how to replace? Something quieter, something human. And the worst part, what if we pretend we don't miss it, just so we don't have to admit we helped bury it? I want you to picture a quiet street in 1970s Britain. Not the postcard version, the real one. Cracked pavement, faded brick houses, curtains slightly yellowed by coal fires. It's a Wednesday afternoon. A woman kneels on her front step, scrubbing the concrete with soapy water. Kids are playing rounders in the road. Someone's radio hums through an open window. You don't knock on doors. You just walk in through the back gate and shout, "Hello?" And someone always answers, not because they had more, but because they needed each other. There was an old man on my street when I was a boy, Mr. Armitage, retired dock worker. Smelled like engine grease and peppermint tea. Every morning, without fail, he would sweep the sidewalk in front of his house. Not just his part, everyone's. He didn't own it. He wasn't paid for it. He just believed that if you shared a street, you shared responsibility. And nobody told him to do it. There was no neighborhood app, no council reminder, no TikTok trend. Just a quiet sense that you were part of something bigger than your front door. Now ask yourself this. When did we decide that minding our own business was the same as being a good person? Because somewhere along the line, we stopped sweeping the sidewalk together and started building higher fences around ourselves. They called it modernization, right to privacy, individual freedom. And don't get me wrong, a lot of those changes were necessary. Britain was no paradise. It was rigid, class-bound, cruel in ways that took decades to admit. Entire generations were silenced because of where they were born, what they earned, who they loved. Children were told to be seen and not heard. Men worked themselves into early graves. Women carried entire households on their backs without a word of recognition. The old systems weren't just traditions. They were cages. But here's the part no one warns you about when you tear down a cage. Sometimes you break the home along with it. We didn't just dismantle old hierarchies. We dismantled rituals. The corner shop where the owner knew your name. The pub where everyone shared the same heater and the same stories. The Sunday roasts with 3 generations around one table. The local church that wasn't just about religion, but about presence. Even the postman who knew which houses needed a little extra patience. We replaced all that with efficiency. A supermarket where no one looks you in the eye. Self-checkout machines that say, "Unexpected item in bagging area," like some polite digital insult. Deliveries dropped at your door by someone who's already late for the next 10 houses. Contacts replaced by transactions. Conversations replaced by notifications. And we call that progress. But listen closely, because this is where the loss really happens. When Britain lost its slowness, it didn't just lose inconvenience. It lost time together. When it lost its community spaces, it didn't just gain privacy. It lost shared memory. And when it replaced neighbors with screens, it lost witnesses to our lives. We don't realize how important that is until we're alone in a crowded world. Mental health crisis, loneliness epidemics, streets full of people who don't know each other's names. We blame social media, inflation, politics, technology. But underneath all of that, there's a simpler grief. We no longer feel held by anything. No village, no routine, no collective rhythm. And here comes the injustice part no one wants to admit. The very system that told us to become independent monetized our isolation. They sold us freedom and charged us for every piece of belonging they destroyed. Want community? Buy co-working spaces. Want culture? Buy streaming subscriptions. Want connection? Pay for faster internet. Want purpose? Download an app. They broke the village. And then sold us the tools to pretend it never existed. And we went along with it. Because it felt like control. Until one day, control started to feel like suffocation. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think the loss is just sadness, just nostalgia, just old people complaining about the good old days. But it's deeper than that. It's something evolutionary. Human beings are not designed to live like this. Hyper-connected, yet emotionally starved. Surrounded by noise, but deprived of meaning. And now, the twist. Do you know what psychologists discovered in a long-term study on post-war British communities? The people who lived in the poorest areas, with the smallest houses and the least financial comfort, reported higher levels of life satisfaction than many people today with more money, more technology, and more choices. Because happiness isn't built on options. It's built on belonging. And we traded one for the illusion of the other. Here's the uncomfortable paradox. Britain didn't just lose traditions because society moved forward. It lost them because they didn't generate profit. You can't monetize neighbors looking after each other. You can't scale Sunday roasts. You can't patent shared silence. So they had to disappear, not because they were outdated, but because they were inconvenient to the market. And now we sit here, scrolling through endless content, convinced the past was backwards, that today is superior, that we're more evolved, while secretly craving something we were taught to call primitive. A knock on the door, a full kitchen table, a street that felt like a family, a life that wasn't optimized, but lived. The real illusion of progress was never technology, or speed, or comfort. It was convincing us that replacing human bonds with digital efficiency was an upgrade. And the moral is simple, even if it hurts. You can't automate what the soul was meant to experience slowly. You can't outsource what the heart was meant to build together. And no society survives by abandoning the things that made it feel like a home in the first place. So the question isn't, why did Britain change? The real question is, why are we so afraid to admit that maybe, just maybe, some things shouldn't have? And now tell me, when was the last time you felt part of something real, not just connected to it through a screen? If this hit deeper than you expected, maybe it's because you've been pretending too. And if you're brave enough to stop pretending, subscribe. But only if you're ready to remember what we lost.